I'm what you could call a night person. Most of the time, I go on long walks around my hometown in the dead of night. It's more quiet and there's hardly anyone else around. But that's why I like it. You don't have any distractions or obnoxious sounds. You can go through whatever thoughts you have, in silence and solitude. Of course, I know the dangers that can come from this. After all, you may not always be completely alone on the dimly lit streets. There could be someone else about, and they don't often have the best intentions. I always keep this in mind and keep a good lookout on my surroundings. And so far anyway, I've encountered nothing wrong. Well, except one time. A route I used to take on my walks included going through an old rundown train station. I've heard it's been abandoned since the 60s, but the line itself still sees use for freight traffic. That's only during the day though, so during the night, nothing. I recall seeing articles about plans to knock down the buildings, or even perhaps reopen it. That was from a few years back. Regardless, it was a spot I always liked going to. It was as isolated as you could get in town, and it was fascinating, observing a structure from a period long ago. It became clear, however, that the modern world hasn't been kind to it. All the windows are smashed, graffiti all over the walls, and sometimes there will be a stench of previous visitors doing God knows what out of the public view. But I could get through it, and honestly, all of that is nothing compared to what happened that night. It happened a couple of years ago, during the spring. My walks so far have been business as usual. No one around, an occasional car flashing by. I was pretty much in a very relaxed state. Soon, I had turned off the main road and made my way down the path leading to the station. It was pretty much pitch black here, but I could just make out my way onto the platform. Only sources of light from here were distant street lights and a full moon looking down on me. I wasn't scared. I've gotten used to it, and actually felt comforted by being surrounded in darkness. I still get that feeling now and then. But that night, it quickly changed. While I wandered along the platform to another path further along, I began hearing something. It was a really strange noise, some sort of buzzing sound that just kept going on and on, with a few sudden gaps in between. I've never heard it before, so I was naturally pretty startled. I looked around the station, along the platform, up at the footbridge, and tried to peer into the dark, empty rooms. But there was nothing. At least, nothing new. I walked closer to the middle of the platform, and as I did, the noise became a little louder, meaning the source was around here. By this point, I had managed to identify what exactly it was. It was a constant static sound, the kind you'd get from a radio or old TV. Why I was hearing it here, it took a while to figure out. When I listened closer, I realized the sound was coming from above me. I looked up, and all I saw was a dented, rusty speaker. Sure enough, it was the source. At first, I was more confused than scared. It just simply made no sense. A station speaker making a sound shouldn't be too unusual, until you remember this place is completely abandoned. There would be no power coming through the station to make that thing work. But before I thought about it more, Another sound came through the speaker, and what followed, I began hearing long, raspy breathing, like someone had their mouth inches from the microphone. I slowly stepped back, eyes wide with shock. I felt faint and thought my legs were going to give way. The breathing continued. I'm sure it was getting louder. When I thought I'd gotten used to the sound, another one followed. High, muffled screams shot out of the speaker, distorted and constantly cut out. I dropped to the ground, clenching my ears. I wanted to scream and cry out for it to stop, but I couldn't. It was unbearable. It was like it was coming from my head now, rather than the speaker. I don't know how long it went on. It might have just been a few minutes, but it felt like hours upon hours. Those same ear-piercing screams. But finally, it stopped. It stopped in an instant, and was followed by a very welcoming silence. I stayed on the floor though. My ears were ringing, and my head was in absolute pain. Eventually, I stumbled to my feet, which was shaking viciously. I quickly waddled over to the station wall for support, and gave myself a few more minutes to just breathe. I knew I needed to get out of there. Staying there any longer was stupid. But I also knew my legs would not be getting me anywhere at that moment. Finally, my legs were just stable enough that I could just walk up the path, far away from the station. I never looked back. I just couldn't. I still don't know what it was about. Maybe something paranormal or some sort of glitch. From what I looked up, nothing crazy or disturbing ever happened to that station when it was open. At least, not that anybody knows of. It's been around for a whole century after all. I wouldn't be surprised if all sorts occurred there, without our knowledge. As you probably guessed, I don't walk to that station anymore. I've figured out a new route, and nothing eventful has really happened since then. I'm a little better now. I don't think about that place much these days. It mainly stays far in the back of my mind. Still, the static, the breathing, the screams. Yeah, I won't be forgetting those anytime soon.